In the 1970s, psychoanalyst Samuel Dunkel proposed a curious, albeit almost completely unsubstantiated, theory that the position you sleep in reflects your personality. For example, preferring to snooze in the so-called royal position indicated self-confidence, while sleeping semi-fetal meant you're sensible and well-adjusted. While Dunkel's ideas lack any definitive proof, how we sleep can impact our health. So, what's the best position to sleep in? Sleep positions go by countless creative names: the zombie, mountain climber, free faller, and soldier, yet sleep. Experts typically simplify them into 4 basic types: left side, right side, stomach, or back. Until the age of 1, it is recommended that babies sleep on their backs to lower their risk of choking and suffocation. As young children, we start to move around more in our sleep, usually ending up on our sides and backs. And this tendency to avoid sleeping on our stomachs only grows with age. By adulthood, most people prefer side sleeping, while fewer favor back sleeping, and stomach sleeping is the least preferred overall. But of course, individual sleep styles are highly personal. Some people are sworn belly sleepers, while others can't nod off unless they're sprawled out on their backs. How we spend the night affects our bodies in several ways. Different sleep postures shift the relative positions of our internal organs, which can either relieve or worsen certain health issues. Others can leave the spine unsupported, straining nearby tissue and preventing the muscles in the back, hips, or neck from fully relaxing. This can then lead to tension and stiffness in the morning. Take, for example, the least popular position, sleeping prone. Of the 4, this also tends to be the least recommended by sleep experts, as it's thought to stretch the natural curvature of your spine. Yet there are unique situations when lying on your stomach may be beneficial. For patients with certain respiratory conditions, for example, it allows the back of the lungs to expand more freely. Sleeping on your back, on the other hand, is often preferred by those with lower back pain. When paired with a small pillow under the knees, this position allows the spine to maintain its natural curve. However, it may be less than ideal for your sleep partner. For some people, lying on their back can cause the soft tissues of the throat and tongue to collapse into the airway. Then, as the body tries to pull air through, these tissues vibrate, creating the sound we call snoring. This is also why people with sleep apnea are often told to avoid this position. This condition already involves pauses in breathing, and back sleeping can increase the likelihood that the airway collapses completely, blocking airflow. Today, most experts generally recommend side sleeping, particularly when combined with a pillow between the knees, to better align the spine. But as it turns out, which side you lie on may make a difference. For example, studies show that sleeping on the left side often reduces heartburn symptoms for those with acid reflux. Your stomach is primarily located on the left side of your body, so this position situates it below the esophagus, allowing gravity to naturally keep stomach acid from flowing back up. However, for people with congestive heart failure, who often have an enlarged left ventricle, sleeping on the right side can help relieve chest pressure and improve their overall quality of sleep. Clearly, there's no one-size-fits-all answer, and attempting to reap the benefits of any one position can be tough, since most people shift positions 20 to 30 times per night without even knowing it. Pillows and other sleep training devices can help you stay in one place. But fortunately, unless you have a specific concern, sleep movement isn't always a bad thing. It's how your body naturally relieves pressure, responds to discomfort, and ultimately prevents injury. So, the next time you find yourself drifting to the free faller, soldier, or zombie, you can rest assured. When ultraviolet sunlight hits our skin, it affects each of us a little differently. Depending on skin color, it will take only minutes of exposure to turn one person beetroot pink, while another requires hours to experience the slightest change. So what's to account for that difference, and how did our skin come to take on so many different hues to begin with? Whatever the color, our skin tells an epic tale of human intrepidness and adaptability, revealing its variance to be a function of biology. It all centers around melanin, the pigment that gives skin and hair its color. This ingredient comes from skin cells called melanocytes and takes two basic forms. There's eumelanin, which gives rise to a range of brown skin tones, as well as black, brown, and blonde hair, and pheomelanin, which causes the reddish browns of freckles and red hair. But humans weren't always like this. Our varying skin tones were formed by an evolutionary process driven by the sun. It began some 50,000 years ago when our ancestors migrated north from Africa and into Europe and Asia. These ancient humans lived between the equator and the Tropic of Capricorn, a region saturated by the sun's UV-carrying rays. When skin is exposed to UV for long periods of time, the UV light damages the DNA within our cells, and skin starts to burn. If that damage is severe enough, the cell's mutations can lead to melanoma, a deadly cancer that forms in the skin's melanocytes. Sunscreen as we know it today didn't exist 50,000 years ago, so how did our ancestors cope with this onslaught of UV? The key to survival lay in their own personal sunscreen manufactured beneath the skin: melanin. The type and amount of melanin in your skin determines whether you'll be more or less protected from the sun. This comes down to the skin's response as sunlight strikes it. When it's exposed to UV light, that triggers special light-sensitive receptors called rhodopsin, which stimulate the production of melanin to shield cells from damage. For light-skinned people, that extra melanin darkens their skin and produces a tan. Over the course of generations, humans living at the sun-saturated latitudes in Africa adapted to have a higher melanin production threshold and more eumelanin, giving skin a darker tone. This built-in sun shield helped protect them from melanoma, likely making them evolutionarily fitter and capable of passing this useful trait on to new generations. But soon, some of our sun-adapted ancestors migrated northward out of the tropical zone, spreading far and wide across the earth. The further north they traveled, the less direct sunshine they saw. This was a problem because although UV light can damage skin, it also has an important parallel benefit. UV helps our bodies produce vitamin D, an ingredient that strengthens bones and lets us absorb vital minerals like calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphate, and zinc. Without it, humans experience serious fatigue and weakened bones that can cause a condition known as rickets. For humans whose dark skin effectively blocked whatever sunlight there was, vitamin D deficiency would have posed a serious threat in the north. But some of them happened to produce less melanin. They were exposed to small enough amounts of light that melanoma was less likely, and their lighter skin better absorbed the UV light. So they benefited from vitamin D, developed strong bones, and survived well enough to produce healthy offspring. Over many generations of selection, skin color in those regions gradually lightened. As a result of our ancestors' adaptability, today the planet is full of people with a vast palette of skin colors. Typically, darker eumelanin-rich skin in the hot, sunny band around the equator, and increasingly lighter pheomelanin-rich skin shades fanning outwards as the sunshine dwindles. Therefore, skin color is little more than an adaptive trait for living on a rock that orbits the sun. It may absorb light, but it certainly does not reflect character.
Why do cats do that? They're cute, they're lovable, and judging by the 26 billion views of over 2 million YouTube videos of them pouncing, bouncing, climbing, cramming, stalking, clawing, chattering, and purring, one thing is certain: cats are very entertaining. These somewhat strange feline behaviors, both amusing and baffling, leave many of us asking, why do cats do that? Throughout time, cats were simultaneously solitary predators of smaller animals and prey for larger carnivores. As both predator and prey, survival of their species depended on crucial instinctual behaviors which we still observe in wild and domestic cats today. While the feline actions of your house cat Grizmo might seem perplexing, in the wild these same behaviors naturally bred into cats for millions of years, would make Grizmo a super cat. Enabled by their unique muscular structure and keen balancing abilities, cats climb to high vantage points to survey their territory and spot prey in the wild. Grizmo doesn't need these particular skills to find and hunt down dinner in her food bowl today, but instinctually, viewing the living room from the top of the bookcase is exactly what she has evolved to do. As wild predators, cats are opportunistic and hunt whenever prey is available. Since most cat prey are small, cats in the wild needed to eat many times each day and use a stalk, pounce, kill, eat strategy to stay fed. This is why Grizmo prefers to chase and pounce on little toys and eat small meals over the course of the day and night. Also, small prey tend to hide in tiny spaces in their natural environments, so one explanation for Grizmo's propensity to reach into containers and openings is that she is compelled by the same curiosity that helped ensure the continuation of her species for millions of years before. In the wild, cats needed sharp claws for climbing, hunting, and self-defense. Sharpening their claws on nearby surfaces kept them conditioned and ready, helped stretch their back and leg muscles, and relieve some stress too. So it's not that Grizmo hates your couch, chair, ottoman, pillows, curtains, and everything else you put in her environment. She's ripping these things to shreds and keeping her claws in tip-top shape, because this is exactly what her ancestors did in order to survive. As animals that were preyed upon, cats evolved to not get caught. And in the wild, the cats that were the best at avoiding predators thrived. So at your house today, Grizmo is an expert at squeezing into small spaces and seeking out and hiding in unconventional spots. It also explains why she prefers a clean and odor-free litter box. That's less likely to give away her location to any predators that may be sniffing around nearby. Considering everything we do know about cats, it seems that one of their most predominant behaviors is still one of the most mysterious. Cats may purr for any number of reasons, such as happiness, stress, and hunger. But curiously, the frequency of their purrs, between 25 and 150 Hz, is within a range that can promote tissue regeneration. So while her purring makes Grizmo an excellent nap companion, it is also possible that her purr is healing her muscles and bones, and maybe even yours too. They developed through time as both solitary predators that hunted and killed to eat, and stealthy prey that hid and escaped to survive. So cats today retain many of the same instincts that allowed them to thrive in the wild for millions of years. This explains some of their seemingly strange behaviors. To them, our homes are their jungles. But if this is the case in our own cat's eyes, who are we? Big, dumb, hairless cats competing with them for resources? Terribly stupid predators they're able to outsmart every day? Or maybe they think we're the prey. Imagine you're watching a runaway trolley barreling down the tracks straight towards 5 workers who can't escape. You happen to be standing next to a switch that will divert the trolley onto a second track. Here's the problem. That track has a worker on it too, but just one. What do? Do you sacrifice one person to save 5? This is the trolley problem, a version of an ethical dilemma that philosopher Philippa Foot devised in 1967. It's popular because it forces us to think about how to choose when there are no good choices. Do we pick the action with the best outcome or stick to a moral code that prohibits causing someone's death? In one survey, about 90% of respondents said that it's okay to flip the switch, letting one worker die to save 5, and other studies, including a virtual reality simulation of the dilemma, have found similar results. These judgments are consistent with the philosophical principle of utilitarianism, which argues that the morally correct decision is the one that maximizes well-being for the greatest number of people. The 5 lives outweigh 1, even if achieving that outcome requires condemning someone to death. But people don't always take the utilitarian view, which we can see by changing the trolley problem a bit. This time you're standing on a bridge over the track as the runaway trolley approaches. Now there's no second track, but there is a very large man on the bridge next to you. If you push him over, his body will stop the trolley, saving the 5 workers, but he'll die. To utilitarians, the decision is exactly the same: lose 1 life to save 5. But in this case, only about 10% of people say that it's okay to throw the man onto the tracks. Our instincts tell us that deliberately causing someone's death is different than allowing them to die as collateral damage. It just feels wrong for reasons that are hard to explain. This intersection between ethics and psychology is what's so interesting about the trolley problem. The dilemma and its many variations reveal that what we think is right or wrong depends on factors other than a logical weighing of the pros and cons. For example, men are more likely than women to say it's okay to push the man over the bridge. So are people who watch a comedy clip before doing the thought experiment. And in one virtual reality study, people were more willing to sacrifice men than women. Researchers have studied the brain activity of people thinking through the classic and bridge versions. Both scenarios activate areas of the brain involved in conscious decision-making and emotional responses. But in the bridge version, the emotional response is much stronger. So is activity in an area of the brain associated with processing internal conflict. Why the difference? One explanation is that pushing someone to their death feels more personal, activating an emotional aversion to killing another person. But we feel conflicted because we know it's still the logical choice. Trolleyology has been criticized by some philosophers and psychologists. They argue that it doesn't reveal anything because its premise is so unrealistic that study participants don't take it seriously. But new technology is making this kind of ethical analysis more important than ever. For example, driverless cars may have to handle choices like causing a small accident to prevent a larger one. Meanwhile, governments are researching autonomous military drones that could wind up making decisions of whether they'll risk civilian casualties to attack a high-value target. If we want these actions to be ethical, we have to decide in advance how to value human life and judge the greater good. So researchers who study autonomous systems are collaborating with philosophers to address the complex problem of programming ethics into machines, which goes to show that even hypothetical dilemmas can wind up on a collision course with the real world.